Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and appreciate you guys tuning in for today's video. Guys, one of the things, or the thing I wanted to do today, I want to talk about rod length, fishing rod length. This is one of the most common questions. I probably would put it in like the top 5, and the most common questions and comments I get is like, Randy, what size of rod do I need to use? They talk about actions and powers, but a lot of them talk about the rod length. And there's a lot to this. There's a lot of complexities to it, and it can be intimidating because there's rod companies make rods anywhere between 5.5 foot up to 8.5 foot and everything in between. So I want to give you guys some real world applications and sort of simplify your rod length choice in today's video. Also guys, speaking of rods, I will put my Megabass rod link in the description of this video and my Tackle Warehouse link. If you guys are looking to get some rods, Tackle Warehouse has got some great sales going on with Black Friday now. You can take advantage of that. And also guys, thank you very much for everybody that's hit that subscribe button here to the Fishing Teacher. We're really pushing hard to get that 50,000 subscriber mark, and hopefully maybe within the next 6 months or year we can hit that. So appreciate everybody that's done that. Okay, how this is an intimidating thing, especially for people that are getting started into fishing and they don't really know much about it. Because if you look on that Tackle Warehouse site, or if you go to Bass Pro Shop or something and look at all the rods, it's intimidating. It's like, what do I need for the baits that I'm fishing? It's like, I don't have any idea what type of action or length, or what's the best, what is, I don't want to waste my money on stuff. So here's some things that some basic foundations that will really help you save money and simplify everything. First of all, the rod length that you use specifically, we're not talking about the action or the power. The rod length that you use has a lot to do with the category of lure that you're fishing. Because normally, the shorter the rod that you're using, the better that rod is to manipulate things. In other words, when you have lures that require wrist action like that, like a jerk bait or maybe some topwater lures, when you need that action on your wrist, you can't really get that action very good with a longer rod. So in that case, you need a little bit of a shorter rod. And then as your lure categories change, you do need a longer rod. For example, if you're pitching and flipping or throwing a big glide bait or something like that, you need a longer rod to make the cast efficiently and take up the line on the hook set. And then the same with any other thing in between. Crankbait fishing, different type of crankbaits, chatterbait, spinnerbait fishing. The rod length, as the rod goes up in length, it has some characteristics that the shorter rod does not have. So let's talk a little bit about those characteristics, and we'll talk about what I think there's really only 3 rod lengths that you need. Okay. Now, when you're talking about a shorter rod, in addition to getting that wrist action on there, you can make more accurate, shorter cast presentations. A shorter rod is not designed for the pitching and flipping like deal. It's designed for casting. So a shorter rod sometimes could be an advantage if you don't like to pitch or flip, or you like to cast, and you can make little short underhand casts, like next to lay down trees, or underneath an overhanging limb in the water, something like that. That's one advantage using a little bit shorter rod. As you get up a little bit, as that rod gets a little bit longer, let's say, for example, you need a lure that you can cast a long distance. And that's a big advantage of a longer rod, is a longer rod will allow you to make a longer cast. So if you have a 6-foot rod versus like a 7-foot rod, you're talking about the difference in the casting distance of maybe 15 to 20% further, because as you have a longer rod with it, you can make a two-handed cast. You can't really make a two-handed cast very well with a short rod because the handles are shorter. So the longer handles will allow you to generate more power with a two-handed cast, and you can get a tremendous amount of distance with that. The next thing with that is, like, you can control the bait and you can control the fish a little bit more, and you can take up more line on the hook set. The longer rod that you have, the more line that you can take up on a hook set. So let's say, for example, if you throw a big crankbait way out there with a 7.5-foot rod and you set the hook on it, the amount of line that you take up on that hook set is 20-25% further than if you did it with a 6-foot rod. So that's an advantage to it. And also, a longer rod, it gives you more control over the fish. If you have a fish in heavy cover, like a fish is in a flooded bush or lay down tree or underneath a dock. When you set the hook on that fish, the leverage created by the extra length of the rod will allow you to get that fish's head out of that cover quicker. Okay, now given this, here's the 3 rods that you need. You need one rod that's 6 foot 11 inches long. Now the 6 foot 11 can be either a spinning rod or a bait caster. That's the one that I use, that Megabass, either the 110 special bait caster or the Megabass whip snake. They're both 6 foot 11. The 6 foot 11 rod will allow you to do all that stuff I talked about with the wrist action. Topwater lures like a walking topwater, jerk baits, maybe some smaller crankbaits, something like that. The next thing you need is a 7 foot 2 inch rod, maybe 7 foot 2 inches to 7 foot 5 inches. This is going to allow you to fish a wide variety of other type lures: jigs, Texas rig worms, spinner baits, chatter baits, different type of crankbaits, swim baits. A 7 foot 2 to 7 foot 5 model is a really good rod for all-around versatility in different type of lure categories. And then finally, you need a rod that's between 7.5 or say 7.6 to 8 foot long, usually a flip and stick or a swim bait rod. This is going to be for your bigger lures, all your pitching and flipping applications. Alabama rig, it's a good way to fish a Carolina rig, big heavy spinner baits, glide baits, big swim baits. So you need that longer rod for that extra power on that. So anyway, guys, that's just a good way to simplify it. If you don't want to get intimidated and don't want to spend a lot of money, just get those 3 rod lengths: 6'11", 7'2" to 7'5", and 7.5 foot or greater. If you have those 3 rods right there, it'll pretty much encompass every lure category out there. So hope it helps you guys out. We'll see you.